Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Mario Cristobal, the Miami Hurricanes, they're in the college football playoffs. And now the question is, what's next? How dangerous is this football team? This was one of the biggest reasons why I was banging the table for Miami to get into the playoffs. Number one, because they had that head-to-head win over Notre Dame. Y'all know how I felt about that. Number two, this team is capable of beating anybody in the country. It's like, what version of Miami are we going to get? And are they capable of playing their best football for 4 straight games? Because I'll say this, if you make this run, if you run this gauntlet, it would be the most impressive 4 game stretch that maybe we've seen in all of college football. Like, you're going on the road and playing Texas A&M in one of the most rowdy environments in the sport. Then you have to play the defending national champs, Ohio State, who went undefeated in the regular season. And you got to play probably the SEC champ in Georgia. And then you probably got to play Indiana, which is the best team in the country right now in the championship. And look, here's the thing. Miami can win those games. Are they going to win all 4 of them? What's it going to need to look like? That's what I want to get into. Before I do, though, I want to give some shout outs. Number one to Mario Cristobal. Hand up into the Miami fans who've been rocking with the boys the last couple of months. I was critical at times of the inconsistencies and the different versions of Miami that we saw every single Saturday when they lost that game on the road to SMU. And the first iteration of the rankings came out, and Miami was, I believe, 18th at the time. We knew it was a long shot. And I think the most difficult position Miami was in is not running the table. We knew Miami was capable of winning every single game on their schedule going forward. It was, hey, can you take care of business when you know maybe not everything's in your control? Can you continue to focus on the task at hand when other things matter? Miami played their best football the last 4 weeks of the season. I think that starts with your head coach, Mario Cristobal. Look, he ain't perfect, and we all know that. Really, really impressive leadership at the top from Mario Cristobal. Number two, man, Shannon Dawson. Yeah, we were critical of what that offense looked like against SMU. And quite frankly, we were critical of what that offense looked like throughout October. It felt stale, it felt bland. They lost that game to SMU, and it like triggered something in Shannon Dawson. And Shannon Dawson said, hey, we just gonna let it fly the next 4 games of the season. And here's my challenge to Shannon Dawson now. Continue the way you're calling this offense. Get creative. Use Malachi Tony in a ton of different ways. Get those wrinkles and those trick plays because it's very, very clear Carson Beck's at his best in this version of this offense. This Miami offense, with Shannon Dawson calling the offense like this, really dynamic. And quite frankly, just really damn fun to watch as well. Here's the last thing I'll say. What's the health of this football team look like? You're going to get a couple of weeks to get guys right. David Blay was dealing with some injuries. Akeem Mesidor, for stretches in November, was very clearly not healthy. Getting everybody to 100%. What about Keontae Scott, who was out for the regular season? Not sure if he'll be able to get back. Is Keontae Scott, who's arguably outside of Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor, maybe the most impactful defender on this Miami Hurricanes defense? Is he going to be ready? CJ Daniels is certainly, getting him back to 100%. That's another fun storyline for Miami as well. What's the gauntlet going to look like? And we'll break down these games, and we're going to take a real deep dive into that Miami Texas A&M game, which I think is by far the most exciting first round matchup. Before we get into it, as always, to the Miami fans, I do want to say thank you to you guys. And it's a cool feeling for me. We've talked a lot about this team over the last 3 to 4 years, and we have broken down the commitment of damn near every single player on this roster, watching Mario Cristobal build a college football playoff team. Now we get to see this team try to run the gauntlet. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. It's been a freaking awesome last couple of years, and quite frankly, I'm not even sure if Rock Boys football still exists without the Miami fans and the support that they've shown over the last couple of years. So appreciate you guys. If you are new, you enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into it. Now, let's start with that matchup on the road against Texas A&M. There are certain X's and O's conversations that we'll get into. We'll preview it a little bit today, but we'll dive more into it with our official preview and prediction episode. My biggest question mark, again, what version of Miami do you get? What version of Carson Beck do you get? That's the most important conversation for Miami throughout the playoffs, right? Because if you get the best version of this football team, the version that we saw in the back half of November, the version that we saw earlier in September, this team's going to have a chance to win every single game on their schedule. That's including on the road against Texas A&M. But here's the second thing is, how does Miami handle this environment? You know, the Miami fans who follow this sport closely, heck, we've seen Miami play in this kind of environment. How do you manage it? This is a playoff game in Kyle Field in College Station, one of the loudest and rowdiest environments in the sport. And we've seen at times Miami not play their best football on the road, but also dealing with the crowd noise, right? We've seen some pre-snap penalties really impact this football team. Are they prepared to go on the road and play a clean brand of football? Because I'll say this, the pre-snap penalties, they will kill you in this football game. And what I mean by that is two different things. Number one, Texas A&M on 3rd and long, it's elite. It's one of, if not the best third down defenses in the country, right? And Mike Elko, when he has you in those 3rd and 7+ situations, he's going to get creative and he's going to give you a lot of different looks and he's going to attack you. And so if you're Miami, hey, we got to stay out of those situations, which means we can't be affording to go 5 yards backward on some pre-snap penalties. Number two, Cassius Howell. This is a unique situation where there's not many tackles, there's not many teams, I should say, across the country that are suited to block a guy like Cassius Howell. One of, if not the best edge rushers in the sport right now. Miami might be one of those teams. I think Miami has, in pass protection, the best tackle duo in the country with Markel Bell and Francis Mauigoa. Can you neutralize Cassius Howell a little bit? Certainly a storyline. You kind of think Miami maybe can do that. The explosive run game is certainly going to be a storyline. The Texas A&M is a very good football team. If you've been rocking with the boys, you all know how much of a fan I am of what Texas A&M is. They check a lot of boxes. One box that they have struggled with, stopping the run, but most importantly, giving up explosive runs. And this is something that Miami, to credit them, that they were miserable finding explosive runs in September and October. Even when they were winning games, they just weren't finding those chunk plays on the ground. With the emergence of freshman Gerard Pringle, with the emergence of Shannon Dawson getting a little bit more creative with this run game, you've started to see Miami find that. Can you do that against Texas A&M? Because they're really good, but they'll screw up some run fits at times. They got aggressive backers that want to fire downhill, and they're good backers, but they'll give you some opportunities. Can a guy like Gerard Pringle make them pay? And then on defense, it really starts with you got to tackle in space, and that's something that, hey, last year Texas A&M's hanging 50 on Miami's defense because Miami could not tackle in space last year. This year, with the team speed and the way Corey Heatherman has this defense flying around the football, you feel like Miami might be a little bit better suited to run, chase, and tackle Mario Craver and Casey Concepcion. To me, the best wide receiver duo that Miami's seen all year. Heck, that might be the best wide receiver duo that you see in the country, outside of what you're going to see at Ohio State with Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. But specifically tackling those guys in space because they're super dynamic after the catch. The other thing, impacting Marcel Reed, but not letting him get outside the pocket and kill you extending. We've seen Miami go back to Kevin Jennings at SMU, even with Kevin Jennings a little bit hobbled with that ankle in that game. Kevin Jennings made Miami pay a little bit, getting outside the pocket, playing off script. You got to walk that line of, hey, we want to be aggressive. We want to impact Marcel Reed, but we don't want to give Marcel Reed the opportunity to get outside and use his athleticism because that's when he's at his best. And lastly, you stop the run. If you can stop the run, number one, that Texas A&M wants to run the football. There's no secret about that. They really want to work play action. Hard to work play action when you can't run the football well. If you can go on the road and stop the run, you have a chance at getting Texas A&M off their rhythm. And here's a storyline: Texas A&M's offensive coordinator, Colin Klein, who I am a freaking monster fan of. Colin Klein took a job at Kansas State. Now the reports are that he's going to call plays for Texas A&M. How dialed in is Colin Klein going to be is certainly a question mark, right? It's really hard to be, I got to go call plays in the college football playoffs, but I'm also a head coach at a different program. What's that look like? Then you go to Ohio State if you get through Texas A&M. And there's a reason Miami's dogs in that game, right? Slight dogs, but they're dogs because Texas A&M is really good and you're going on the road to play them. I'm fascinated by that matchup. I don't think there's a team that's better suited to beat Ohio State than Miami. And I know that kind of sounds crazy. I think it's true. Why is it true? We just saw the blueprint of how to be disruptive against Ohio State. You got to get after Julian Sain. Nobody's really been able to do it besides Indiana. And Indiana in that bowl game was really disruptive. And Julian Sain is a phenomenal quarterback. The ball comes out quick. The ball comes out on time, but he's not great at making it work when it's not perfect. When you have to get him off his spot, or when you can get him off his spot, when you ask him to be an athlete and get outside the pocket, that's not when he's at his best. Miami, I think, boasts the best pass rush in the country with Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesdor. Guys like Ahmad Moten on the inside. There's one big storyline in that football game. Can you dominate Ohio State up front? Can you really get Julian Sain uncomfortable? I think Miami can do that. And I think that's going to give them a chance. Look, Miami's going to be underdogs in that game. But because of that pass rush and their ability to get after the quarterback against a quarterback that I think is really good, but can't really extend, can't really run away from pressure, that's a really big storyline for Miami. Then you play Georgia. Can Miami just be better than Georgia at their own game? And what I mean by that is, well, what's the key for Georgia? If Georgia wins a national championship, when we've seen Georgia win national championships, there's one thing that they always have. Better along the lines of scrimmage. Like, hey, we got more NFL draft picks up front on the lines of scrimmage than the teams we're playing. I don't think that's true in that football game, right? And again, we're looking at this from a glass half full perspective. You know, like, well, what are some of the reasons that we think Miami can make the run? I look at that game against Georgia and say we got more NFL draft picks out than them on the offensive line. I think we got more NFL draft picks than them on the defensive line. There's not been a lot of programs that could say that when they play Georgia every single game, or every single year, I should say. Miami has a chance at saying that. Now, here's the thing with Georgia. They are playing their best football late. By the version of Georgia that we've seen the last month, compare that to the version of Georgia that we saw in the beginning of October, completely different football team. And then it's Kirby Smart. And this is an opportunity. Here's another storyline. Mario Cristobal as a head coach, right? Right now, you trust Kirby Smart more on the sideline than Mario Cristobal. And you say that same thing for Ryan Day too, right? This is an opportunity for Mario Cristobal to show, hey, I've been running a really good program and I've been recruiting really well and I've built a really good roster. Now you get the chance to go show you're a coach that can consistently win these big games against some of the best coaches in the country. And then you're probably going to see Indiana or maybe Oregon, maybe even Texas Tech. I think Texas Tech has a chance here, but my pick would be Indiana. That's a hard team to beat. We'll talk about it when that conversation gets there. I do think there are some problems with Indiana on the offensive line that you saw against Ohio State. That would probably be the pathway. That's one of those games where, hey, let's get there first, and then we'll break down the path for victory for Miami, because we ain't even sure where we're going to see. But I think you feel pretty safe. If we get through Texas A&M, we for sure going to see Ohio State. If we get through Ohio State, I think we for sure going to see Georgia. It would be a legendary run. And you talk about on the road against Texas A&M. Then you beat Ohio State. Then you beat Georgia. And then you potentially beat Indiana. It would be the best 4-game run that we've seen in the history of the sport. Can Miami do it? That's the question. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. I'll say this, buckle up. We got a lot to talk about. Because it's kind of a wild part of the year, because we're going to be talking about the playoffs We're also going to be talking to some storylines regarding Miami and what they might be doing in the portal, too. We got a lot to talk about. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll talk to y'all later.